going on, everybody? Welcome back to my random horror review series. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, episode 92 coming at you live. And yes, we've got another one here from the Film Detective. And it is a film from 1961 directed by Antonio Margheriti, aka Anthony Dawson, who he always used that pseudonym basically to appeal to the North American market. And it is a early sci-fi film called Battle of the Worlds. Yes, this is a very early Antonio Margheriti film, like a second or third directed film. If you're unfamiliar with Antonio Margheriti, he is quite the journeyman. He dabbled in pretty much every genre you could possibly think of for Italian films. Like he did sci-fi, he did horror, he did giallos, he did Eurocrime films, he did comedies, spaghetti westerns, action, even type cannibal films. Like he really did everything. Antonio Margheriti, to me, is always known as the guy that directed The Long Hair of Death from like the mid-60s. I absolutely love that movie. I think it's a classic gothic horror film. He did Castle of Blood, Web of Spider, which was like a giallo, Seven Deaths in the Cat's Eye, which was another giallo. He also did Cannibal Apocalypse with John Saxon, which is an amazing film. Killer Fish. He did some spaghetti westerns. He did Take a Hard Ride and God Said to Cain. He did some more other sci-fi films too. I think he did War of the Planets and War Between the Planets. I think that was two kind of later sci-fi films that he had done. I have actually not seen those movies. I even own those two films, but yeah, anyways, I digress. He's done so many movies. They're just too many to name. I know he did Yor, kind of like the kind of like futuristic type thing, yeah. But anyways, yeah, Battle of the Worlds directed by Antonio Margheriti, quite the journeyman, and starring Claude Rains in this film. Like, how crazy is that? Now, when I first saw that Claude Rains was going to be in this film, if you're unfamiliar with Claude Rains, of course, he was in Casablanca, he was in The Wolfman, he was in The Invisible Man, he was also in Hitchcock's Notorious, and I know he did a bunch of episodes of Hitchcock's Presents film and stuff like that too. But he was he was a great actor, really, really great actor. I know he won a lot of awards and stuff like that too. But when I first saw that Claude Rains was going to be in this movie, I was like, he's top billed. I'm like, you know what? He's probably only going to get minimal screen time in this. But to my amazement, he's actually the star of this movie, which is quite crazy. So it was kind of interesting to me too, because I'm looking at his filmography, and this is actually one of the last movies that Claude Rains ever did, you know, going from Casablanca and Wolfman and Invisible Man. Like, he did all these kind of like very, very, well-received type films. He actually did Lawrence of Arabia right after this movie, which is kind of crazy too. So yeah, he's kind of dabbled into doing like foreign films and stuff like that. But anyways, I digress. Battle of the Worlds, of course, starring Claude Rains. Getting into the synopsis of the film, basically this one's about his character. He leads a team of scientists on Earth and on Mars, and he's like a mathematical whiz, and his mathematical brilliance has led to believe that there's this asteroid / kind of planet that's heading towards the Earth, and he's concluded that it's going to actually miss the Earth by like 95,000 miles and stuff like that. And to his amazement, it actually does. But then, to his amazement again, it starts to like orbit the world. So now he's super confused, and he concludes that it must be controlled by some type of alien force and stuff like that, because an asteroid obviously does not have a mind of its own, hence a planet. And so they dubbed this thing the Outsider. And at first he's like, all hell bent, we got to destroy this thing because it's coming to do whatever. So the team on Mars, they send out an expedition to go and investigate this Outsider. And lo and behold, they as they approach it, it spits out these flying discs, and all hell breaks loose on Earth. And so now basically they've got to destroy this thing before it destroys Earth or does whatever it needs to do to survive and stuff like that. So that is the premise of the synopsis of the film. Now, get into my thoughts on Battle of the Worlds. Now, this movie shocked me, because I was hell-bent on thinking that this was going to be a very comedic, cheesy sci-fi film from the early 60s. And, you say what you will about it, you might conclude that it is a little bit cheesy and stuff, but it's actually got a very serious tone to it. It's got a little bit of mixed-in comedy here and there, but it's very kind of dry and a little bit more subtle. There's only a couple moments of it, but the whole movie's kind of played straightforward. Like, it's literally humans against this alien force called the Outsider. It's actually really crazy. And there's some really cool ideas within this film, like where it concludes and stuff, I think is very, very cool. But yeah, it was shocking that it was done very serious. Like I said, there's a couple moments of comedy in the film where Claude Rains' character, he's a scientist. He's a very grumpy scientist and stuff like that, and he smokes cigars. And he'll be sitting around, and there'll be a bunch of people around him and stuff, and he never has a lighter. And so he'll be like, I need a lighter, and then, of course, 8 people will lean in to give him a lighter and stuff, and it's kind of like that dry comedy, but it happens a couple times in the film, and it's weird because, like I said, it's a very serious toned film, so it's kind of strange. But yeah, 1961 sci-fi Italian low-budget film. What you're going to get effect-wise is it's, you know, obviously it looks low budget. It looks very, very low budget, but there's some type of charm to that low budget sci-fi space shuttle, Earth, aliens, flying saucer that I love about these movies. That's the charm that keeps me, you know, intrigued in these type of movies. I love it. I think it's fantastic. What they had for budget and what they accomplished is actually quite pretty. It looks very, very cool, especially the end of the film. The last like 15-20 minutes, like what the design of what they did. I don't want to give it away and stuff, but it looks really damn cool. And I feel like some other filmmakers have seen these type of films before and maybe took some ideas from that, because it kind of looks vaguely familiar to some very popular sci-fi type horror films that we've seen in recent years. But yeah, but I gotta say, man, the acting overall in the film is really good. It's really, really good. Claude Rains actually knocks out the park. And to my amazement, the ADR, this is like one of the best ADR produced films I've ever seen. If you're familiar with Italian films, you know that they film their films without sound. They go and do the sound and do the automatic replacement, dialogue replacement and stuff like that, hence the ADR. This one lines up really, really well. They obviously got the actors to dub themselves, but it matches up really good. I was quite surprised by the sound of this, which leads me into the transfer. It's a little bit soft. The picture quality is fantastic. It looks really good. It's just, it looks a little bit washed out at times, but it's totally visibly fine. It looks great and sounds great. So I was very, very impressed with that and stuff like that. But getting back to the film, I think the one thing about this movie that kind of hurts it a little bit is the pacing. It's an 81-minute film. It starts out really strong. It lows in the middle a little bit and then picks up towards the end, like a lot of these type of films. You can feel like the middle is definitely padding its time. There's a relationship between a couple characters. They're having a romance and stuff. And it's very not interesting. It's very, very not interesting. You're really just more interested about Claude Rains and his grumpiness and his will to like understand what's going on out there. Like he's this scientist that's, you know, hell-bent on mathematics and knowledge and stuff like that. And you really just want to get more into him. And, you know, him figuring out what the hell is going on with this outsider and what they want to accomplish and stuff like that. That's the interesting part of the film. Relationship, not so much. It does lull in the middle, which kind of hurts the movie a little bit. But, you know, with that said, yeah, it's overall a very, very strong and interesting film. I think that this one isn't going to be, everyone's not going to love this movie, especially if you're not really a big fan of like low budget sci-fi films from the early 60s and 50s and stuff like that. I love these type of movies, whether it be Italian, American, atomic Fallout films, and I love these type of movies. I think they're very, very fun, and they have this special charm, this quality to them that I can't really explain, but this one really does work on a lot of levels. But like I said, though, if this one ran about 10 minutes shorter, I think maybe cut out some of that romance stuff in the middle. I think it would have been a little bit tighter and would have worked a little bit better and stuff. But lo and behold, I think that where this one ends up is very surprising. It was surprising. It was kind of a shock ending to me. I didn't really see that coming. And I think the ideas that they have with this alien force and this outsider and stuff are very cool. It's actually very cool. The stuff that they bring into it, it kind of gets a little bit biblical, and there's some ideas there that I just wasn't expecting. And the very end of the film, I wasn't either. There's a line that this dude says at the end of the film too, which I'm sure has been quoted before. It's just kind of like, it seems like it was very iconic. Yeah, so Battle of the Worlds, very, very interesting film. I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's definitely one of the better quality sci-fi films I've seen out of Italy. And this is a very early one too. If you know anything about Italian cinema, you know, it started in like the later 50s. So this is very much in its infancy in filmmaking in general and stuff like that. So with these genre films, but there's some special features on here. It's got it presented from a new 4K scan. I think the elements that they had, they probably did the best they could. There's like I said, the PQ quality is very good on this. There's no scratches, there's no imperfections and things like that. It's just, it seems a little bit washed out, even though the colors do pop. If that makes any sense, it's hard to explain. So there is a featurette on here, and a full-length commentary on here with Justin Humphries, which is kind of cool. Those would always be interesting to listen to. And of course, there's an original essay on here also. So a little bit of features on here and stuff like that. So that is Battle of the Worlds from Film Detective. Another company that's putting out really, really great stuff, kind of resurrecting these older films from pure obscurity. I don't even know if this one even had a good release before and stuff like that, so I have no idea. But again, directed by Antonio Margheriti, just a fantastic director, and a guy that's, it's funny because we covered Antonio Margheriti, I think, Italian Month last year. Was it last year? And so many people said they'd never even heard of him. And I started spitting off films, like The Last Hunter and Cannibal Apocalypse and, The Long-Haired Death and things like that. And everyone's like, I don't know. But yeah, check out some of those films I named. Maybe too many to actually remember. Castle Blood's a really good one. But Battle of the Worlds, good stuff right here. Highly recommend it. Very good release from the Film Detective. So yeah, that's going to conclude episode 92 here on my Random Horror Review series. And yeah. The next reviews you're probably going to see are going to be the 31 Days of Horror. Yes, I'm back this year. Last year I was gone for like the first week of October, didn't have a chance to pre-record anything. You guys know the deal. But I'll be back this year with 31 Days of Horror, even though I'm going to be actually at Wasteland. So check you guys then. See you in the next review. And as usual,